All right, students, this is Mr. Bornheimer, and I am going to go ahead and show you real just kind of briefly how you would annotate an article for the first time reading through. So one of the powers of understanding complex nonfiction articles is your ability to kind of isolate information you don't understand, and to isolate information you find interesting and isolate information that you have questions about. And so basically, a lot of it is has very much to do with just your ability to really take a look at the text and figure out, what do I know, what don't I know, and try to make some sense of it. So here's some brief tips that I have for you. Okay, the first thing I want you to go ahead and look at is that you would underline, okay, unfamiliar words. Okay, so I would want you to go ahead and I would really want you to underline words that, oh, hey, I don't think I've heard that before. Okay, that would be really important. I would also want you to draw arrows to show related ideas. So if you feel like, hey, I felt like they talked about that in the first part, maybe draw an arrow and say, this is mentioned already, or this has been mentioned already, or maybe they're talking about different aspects of the article. Different aspects of what they're talking about in the article are being discussed at the beginning and the end, and so just making notes to yourself. Oftentimes when they list something where they kind of describe details, it's very helpful to number. This could be really helpful if you're reading through something that's talking about a scientific process, like, hey, do this, then this, then this. Well, that's a 1, 2, 3. Or if there's a list or details, maybe usually those things are quite important. They're listing them for a reason, and so we want to make a note of them. Last but not least, we really want to just focus on, if there are things that are confusing, make a note. And if there are things that you find really interesting or you think are important, put a star next to them. If you're reading something that has an opinion and you really don't agree with the author, put an exclamation point. And of course, anything that you find funny, you can put like a smiley face or LOL, some kind of humorous mark. Okay? So let's go ahead and try this real quick. Here's an article from Newsella. It's a great news outlet talking about last year's Nobel Prize in Physics. Okay, so it's a relatively short article by some standards, and I'm going to go ahead and just kind of read it through out loud. All right, as I'm reading, I'm going to go ahead and annotate. Okay, so I read slow and deliberate, and I try to make sense of the words. This is not speed reading. I'm not reading to just get through it. I want to read for understanding. Okay, so this year the Nobel Prize Committee decided to honor a physics discovery that might be overlooked, but benefits us all: light bulbs. The 2014 Nobel Prize in Physics went to Asumo Akasaki, Hiroshi Amano, and Suji Nakamura for their discovery of blue light emitting diodes. Okay, I'm going to stop there for just a second because I don't know what a blue light emitting diode is. And I recognize that LED thing, but I don't necessarily know what that is, which have enabled new forms of brighter, more energy efficient lighting. Well, I'm going to guess that that is kind of important. So I'm going to star that, especially that energy efficient part. Okay, something like a fourth of our electricity consumption goes to illumination. Nobel Prize Committee member Ole Ignace of Linköping University in Sweden said during a press conference on October 7th announcing the award. Having much more light for much less electricity is really going to have a big impact. Well, I'm going to say that I think that this energy efficient idea might tie in with this less electricity idea. So I'm going to just kind of draw those because I think those two kind of go together. And I probably should also put a question mark next to my underlined part because I didn't quite understand that. And when I don't understand something, I need to put a question mark. So there's kind of some phrasing there I understand, but maybe if I understand it, that'll help make light of what's going on there. Okay, next page. Blue LEDs, a long time coming. The new Nobel laureates worked for years to achieve blue LEDs, finally discovering them in the 1990s. When combined with red and green LEDs, they can create white light. Oh, that's kind of interesting. You can combine things. I'm going to just put a little star there. I think that's kind of interesting. The red and green versions have been around since the 1960s, but the blue took about another 30 years to accomplish. Wow. I'm gonna put wow there. Just because it's not on my sheet doesn't mean I can't oh wow, that seems like a really long time to try to do one thing. A lot of big companies really tried to do this and they failed, said Nobel Committee member Per Delsing of Chalmers University of Technology in Sweden. But these guys persisted and they tried and tried again, and eventually they actually succeeded. Okay. The achievement required the growth of high-quality gallium nitride crystals. Well, that's a bunch of stuff I don't quite understand. So I'm just going to go ahead and underline that because I don't know what that is. That's kind of, and there's terminology there. Like high quality I get, but gallium nitride, especially that, okay, I'm a little fuzzy on. Which are semiconductors. Oh man. Well, in the 6th and 7th grade, we might not know what a semiconductor is, so I should probably underline that word as well. Which allow electricity to flow between a conductor, such as copper, and an insulator, like glass. Well, we do know what conductors and insulators are, so that should be good. Inside semiconductors, electrons and holes, or spaces without electrons, can move around the crystal lattice structure to allow electrical current to flow. Oh man. There's a lot in there I don't quite get. Crystal lattice structure. Okay, kind of a question mark there. When the right voltage is applied to the semiconductor, electrons and holes join and give off light. The wavelength of the light, the color, depends on the energy required to free an electron in the material. The energy applied to gallium nitride gives off ultraviolet and blue light. There's a lot of stuff in there. I think, again, like wavelength. I might not know. I don't think I kind of know what that means. And that word semiconductor keeps coming back again. So I think it's probably a word I'm going to need to look up. Okay, this is what it means to annotate, right? That these kind of go together, that I have questions. So when you're working with the article, it's okay to it's even okay to work with it quietly and talk out loud to yourself. Read and try to say, okay, I don't understand that sentence. Okay, do I understand pieces? Sure, like high quality. I understand high quality. So I might just erase it just a little bit because I kind of understood what that word meant. So going back through and really trying to make sense of it, that's what we want you to do here. Okay. Now, are you going to understand it the first time around? No, probably not. Okay, because you notice there's annotations here, and then I move on and there's annotations there. You're probably going to need to go back and reread once you've looked up some vocabulary, once you've tried to ask some questions of your teacher and things like that. This is what it means to annotate an article. Not just underlining, circling, or highlighting, but actually putting marks like question marks, arrows, stars in deliberate locations. And even little comments will help as well, like wow here in the upper right-hand corner. Okay, so hopefully this was helpful in helping you to understand how to annotate an article. Okay, if you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and email me or ask me in class. Thanks for watching.